Star Wars, fucking Star Wars will never end. Star Wars, oh my god, Star Wars, fucking Star Wars, oh my god. So I actually decided to brush my hair for this video. That's how you know it's going to be a good one. So a few months ago I joined a group called Against the Odds, which was started by Chrisiosity, a feminist YouTuber, and also my friend. The idea of this group was to work on men's issues intersectionally, which is to say anti-feminists and feminists and SJWs and anti-SJWs and unicorns and beta omegas and true alphas working together to try to help men on men's issues. The group has been a bit slow going in terms of getting content out there, but this is the major contribution that I want to make initially. Some men's rights activists I've talked to have taken issue with us calling ourselves a men's rights group. I guess that's already trademarked and it's kind of illegal to go that route for us because it's got too many feminazis in it. So I'll just call it a men's issues group. Against the Odds has a variety of different subjects in it. It's got veterans affairs issues, suicide, abuse. I was originally tapped to head the veterans affairs group and I was like, I have no experience with veteran affairs. I don't know what I'm doing. How could I possibly head that? So I bowed out of that, and then I think Chrisiosity took that over because she's some kind of Marine or something. I just made that up. But the subject that I'm really interested in talking about is depression and suicide, because I have some experience with depression. I'm going to explain my story. I also have some experience with self-harm or trying to commit suicide, although I think the way that I went about it was not particularly traumatic or very, I don't know, dramatic compared to what other people have been through. I just want to make a video where I can talk about depression, suicide, and wider mental issues in a way that can provide help to people who may be struggling with their own conditions or have their own difficulties and are just trying to find a way of getting through or thinking of a reason to keep going with life. I just want to make a video where I can help in some way. And so that's what this video is. Now for starters, because this is for the Against the Odds group, I need to talk about suicide somewhat through a gendered lens and look at the difference between male and female suicide. I am in no way trying to diminish female suffering or female suicide. I just want to point to the information, but not prescribe reasons or values as to what's more important. Is this more important or is that more important? Just to say that there is a conspicuously higher number of men killing themselves, and that's just a fact. For starters, I have this map. Age standardized. Fuck, I can't say that fucking word. Age standardized suicide rates per 100,000 population, both sexes, 2012. So this particular graphic is not gendered. This is just everyone. This is useful because it just shows us the countries in which people are committing suicide at the highest rates. We can see in Russia, it's very high. In East Asia, Japan, very high as well. Certain parts of Africa have an extremely high suicide rate. India and other areas around there. Eastern Europe. Next down on the rung, we've got America, Australia, other African places, Chile, Argentina, Congo, and Angola have high suicide rates. And we can just get a general idea of how each country is doing. So we are talking a range of 5 to 15 per 100,000 population, or above with the darkest coloring there. My own country, New Zealand, seems to be sort of in the middle of the pack, similar to, say, Brazil and Canada and the UK, whereas America's doing a little bit worse. The next statistics I have here are from suicide.org, and they talk about the international suicide statistics and also show gendered statistics. So here it says, over 1 million people die by suicide worldwide each year. The global suicide rate is 16 per 100,000 population. On average, one person dies by suicide every 40 seconds somewhere in the world. 1.8% of worldwide deaths are suicides. Global suicide rates have increased 60% in the past 45 years, which is quite alarming. This map is laid out a little bit differently, but we can still see the difficult areas here. Australia and New Zealand not doing very well in this one. And then just below that, places like India, Norway, and America and Canada. So the country with the highest suicide rate is Lithuania. Males 70 per 100,000, females 14. So that's a massive difference there. About a 55 difference per 100,000. So we can see how massive the disparity is between male and female. Belarus, the second highest, 63.3 to 10.3. So there's a massive difference there. 50 difference there. Russia, 61.6, 10.7. Another very massive difference between male and female suicide. Kazakhstan, 51 male, 8.9 female. Hungary, 44.9 male, 12 female. Guyana, 42.5 male, 12.1 female. Slovenia, 37.9 male, 13.9 female. Latvia, 42.9 male, 8.5 female. Japan, 35.6 male, 12.8 female. South Korea, 32.5 male, 15 female. So there's a very consistent pattern here of a significant difference between male and female suicide rates. If I look at my own country of New Zealand, 19.8 male, 4.2 female, so a tremendous difference there. We do need to keep in mind the scale. We are talking per 100,000, so it's not as completely as alarming as it sounds, but it's still quite high. Now, my purpose of pointing that out is solely to say, I mean, obviously, there is something about males or men which makes them far more predisposed to committing suicide. And that is a major men's issue. It doesn't discount or discard or say that women's issues are any less serious. It's just, in a matter of direct comparison, there is something going on with men on a global scale which makes them a lot more likely to commit suicide. And I think that's something that people should be talking about. My main issue there is that people find it very difficult to talk about these things without diminishing somebody else's problems. Everyone's always talking about women. It's all about the women, goddamn women. To me, that takes away from what your main focus should be, which should be looking at the male suicide rate for what it is, trying to figure it out. Maybe it's related in some ways to women, but I think it would be absurd to say that's the only reason. There's also ideas of masculinity in society and lots of complicated things that I don't want to get into in this video right now as to why that could be the case. So it's just something to think about. So now I would like to talk about my own history with depression. When I was a young kid, I was extremely gregarious. I was kind of annoying. I was extremely immature. I often got in trouble for things like throwing rocks at the girls. I spat in some girls' hair. I guess when I was a kid, I was a huge misogynist, and then I grew out of it. I don't know. One day I went to school. I think I was around 13, perhaps. And my friend brought some weed to school, to our high school. Gave me his bong, and then I took a big hit. And I was like, nah, this is useless. Nothing happened. No, weed is no good. So I tried some more. I was like, pathetic. The very next day, went to school and tried his bong again. And I took a massive drag, and I was hit so powerfully by the weed that my legs buckled and I collapsed on the ground. And then I just remember waking up slightly later, not knowing how much time had passed. I was like, whoa, what happened? And they were like, Jesus Christ, bro. Took a massive fucking hit there. And then I was high as fuck. Over the next year or so, I spent every day being high at school. I mean, we used to get completely fucking smashed. But then at some point, for reasons that I'm not aware of and don't know why, I stopped enjoying it. And slowly, I started to get this kind of paranoia and fear. And I wouldn't be able to concentrate. My lips would always be way too dry and I'd be licking them. And I couldn't listen to people when I was confused, and I would get scared and anxious. Eventually, I started to get those feelings when I wasn't stoned. And then sometime around when I was 14 or something, I just had a complete breakdown. And my personality effectively just changed overnight. I stopped being fun-loving and, enjoying things and being happy. And I just went to being completely lethargic and miserable. And all I did was just lie around on the couch, completely unproductive, not do anything. I wouldn't want to get up. I'd see no reason to do anything, and I'd have to get forced out of bed in the morning and then sleepwalk off to school and fucking sit there like a lump of coal, feeling like trash all the time and just in extremely low mood. And eventually I had kind of a breakdown in front of my parents where I just started crying uncontrollably. I didn't know why. I didn't even know why I was crying. My parents were alarmed and sent me off to see a doctor person, and then I got diagnosed with depression. It's consistent and it's ongoing. And I don't know for sure if there was a link between that and smoking a fuckload of weed when my brain was just forming, but that could be the case. But anyways, I got on medication. I went from being completely lethargic every single day and just seeing no reason to do anything or just get off the couch to being in an alright state. Like, I was okay. I could maintain things. And I went through lots of different drugs. Went through like venlafaxine, citalopram, Prozac,
suicide, mass murder pills,
like lots of different ones. The one that really worked for me was venlafaxine, which I was always on. But when I would stop taking it, I would start getting like this crazy dizziness, and I couldn't look straight. And if I turned my head to the right, it would be like I was turning my head to the right twice. It would be like, this is really confusing me. And I would get those side effects after a day. So then eventually I was like, I'm kind of sick of taking this, so I'm just going to lay off this and stop taking it. So I went through all the dizziness and shit, and I just went straight back into that lethargic mode. Just fucking miserable all the goddamn time. Depression kind of came to define my early life in many ways. I felt like I was just trying to get through life without people seeing what a fucking miserable sad sack I was. I just couldn't deal with anything. I just wanted to lie around and just be sad. And I couldn't deal with life, you know. And it took me a long time to get through that. And despite struggling so much with depression and trying all of these different drugs and everything, and having people around me treat me so differently once they found out, like, oh, he's got depression, there's something wrong with him, and treating you like you're different, treating you from arm's length, like they can't really relate to you or talk to you because there's something strange about you. That's very difficult to deal with when you're growing up. Feeling like people see you as if you're broken because you're not operating in the happy-go-lucky way you feel like you're supposed to be. Well, during that time, I was never suicidal though. I never wanted to kill myself. I just wasn't happy, and I wasn't really appreciating or enjoying anything, and I couldn't see the purpose in anything. You're not supposed to live that way. You're supposed to live like a happy person, just enjoying everything, like, la-di-da, this is so great, oh, they're fantastic, look at the weather, look at all this shit, look at all the crap on reality TV. The only thing that really made me happy was music. Ironically, it made me more happy when I was fucking stoned, because I love the bass lines when I'm stoned. But smoking weed made me too miserable and I had to quit. So then eventually I just said to my friends when they were passing around the joint, like, no thanks, I can't take it, like, no. I just said no, and that was good for me. And I haven't smoked weed since. I'm very glad that I don't, because it really fucks up my brain. It may have been responsible for like imbalancing it into a depressive mode in the first place. I'm not really sure. But smoking weed was not right for me. Throughout this whole period of my life, I never really flirted with suicide. Of course, I thought about it a lot. I thought, well, what if I just fucking stab myself right now? Or what if I hung myself? I wonder what people think about that. Ha ha ha. What if I slit my wrists and, you know, got into the bath and just bled out? Wouldn't that be fantastic? But I never really got the urge to do it because I was too scared, because it's an incredibly scary thing. People say that suicide is not brave. I don't know how they can say that. I don't know what the afterlife is. I'm pretty sure it's just infinite, eternal blackness, because I don't believe in God. So I'm just gonna die, and I'll be dead, and that's fucking scary, and I used to get like night terrors and chills about the idea of dying. I find it fucking terrifying. I never understand people who say it's not scary. I think it's scary. So that always held me back from committing suicide. But that kind of changed after I moved to Japan with a partner, and we were living long distance, and she was the love of my life, and I was just obsessed with her, loved her in every possible way. But I started on new medication in Japan because they don't have the same medications as they have in New Zealand. I don't really think it worked for me, and I started to let my depression go out of control. So I would go like 5 hours to a house on the train, and when I got to a house, I would just lie on the bed looking miserable. She would like hold me and be like, what's wrong with you? Like, what can I do? And I'd just be like, you know. She would go out to like parties and do things, and I would just stay back in her apartment, just sitting there, like a miserable fucking sod. And I also kept playing games on my phone instead of talking to her. So she'd be talking and just be like, I'm just like playing the thing. She's like, are you listening? I'm like, yeah. But it's just, I felt like so sad inside. So deeply devoid of meaning or purpose. And I took it out on her a little bit because she didn't know how to handle that. She didn't know how to deal with it. And I wasn't giving her the information she needed. So eventually she was like, I want to break up with you. Like, I want to split up. Like, I can't take this anymore. I thought she was the love of my life. And I just like freaked out. And I went insane. But I didn't go insane at her, I went insane at myself. You loser, you failure, you fucking pathetic piece of shit. She was the love of your life, you pathetic fucking bum. And I just drank and drank and drank, and then I'd try to call her while I was drunk, and I just would be like, take me back, I'm fucking wasted. And she would say, never call me again, stop contacting me. And I went into just a death spiral. And then I just felt so suicidal. There was a period of about 2 weeks in which all I wanted to do was fucking die. And I had it planned. I knew what I wanted to do. But I'm not going to talk about how I planned it, because I can't just like give ideas to random people out there about how to kill themselves. It's not the purpose of this video. I was flirting with suicide for 2 weeks when I was like, there's no reason to keep going. I've lost the love of my life. I'll never meet anyone again. Fucking pathetic. And I can't do it. I came close to doing it. There was one night where I got all of my medication in one place. I got super drunk and I took all of the medication at once, just like fistfuls of pills. And then I was just completely out of it, wandering around my apartment. And I opened up the drawer and pulled out a knife and then started stabbing myself in the arm. But I was so fucking drunk and so wasted, I didn't notice that this was like the bluntest knife in the entire house. And when I woke up, my arm was just covered in bruises and scabs. And I was like, what? What the fuck happened? And then I looked at the knife and then I tested it and I was like, I tried to kill myself with this? Like, you could barely even cut butter with that thing. So I just had bruises all over my arm. It did make me think, I'm kind of lucky that I didn't pick up a sharp knife. That could have turned out a lot worse. I would have woken up with bloody gashes all over myself if I'd woken up at all. But instead I just woke up feeling kind of ill because I took all these pills. And the pills didn't really achieve anything because I think it's extremely hard to kill yourself by taking lots of prescription medication, so that was stupid. So you can see that my attempts to commit suicide were very pathetic. It's probably good that they were, because I'm happy to be alive now, so I'm glad that I didn't achieve anything and I was too muppety to kill myself properly. So also studies showed that people are considerably more likely to commit suicide after a breakup. So it's not very surprising that, given my breakups was somewhat caused by my depression, as well as my neglectful behavior at the time, it's no surprise that I got that suicidal in that period. But then after that 2-week period was over, I had to make a decision, and the decision I made was that I'm never going to commit suicide. I've decided categorically against it. I've thought about it in a very serious capacity, and I have to live. I have to be alive. Why? I don't fucking know. I don't know. So the reason I think that I need to be alive is because I enjoy music, and I enjoy books, and I enjoy arguing with douchebags on the internet who don't listen, and I enjoy making videos, and I enjoy mowing the fucking lawn, and I enjoy taking long baths, and I enjoy driving, and I enjoy watching movies, and I enjoy playing computer games, and a whole range of different things. And none of these can give me a purpose or reason to be alive, but it's enough for me at this current point in time. Now, the reason that I've told my own story is just so that I can give some perspective to you about something other people might have gone through. But I am entirely aware that my story is not that intense. I've had a very privileged lifestyle and upbringing. My parents are very supportive and have always been together, so I'm not really facing that struggle. I went to decent schools. I live a good lifestyle. I haven't had any like big tragedies or financial difficulties. So other people's stories with depression are going to have these other obstacles and difficulties in them that I haven't had in my story. And that's why I gave my personal story, because I cannot speak for anybody else. I often hear a lot of talking points around suicide. For example, as I've already mentioned, that it's the most selfish thing and the most horrible thing that you can possibly do. I honestly think that's a misguided thing to say, because I know that the survivors feel that way. They feel like we were abandoned and we were left behind by that person. But I think you need to understand that when someone is in a suicidal state, they are not thinking clearly and rationally. I was not thinking in my suicidal state about all the good things in my life. All I could see was darkness and blackness and despair. I couldn't see any of the good things. And you have to get out of that mindset to be able to understand reasons as to why you should be alive. And that's very difficult to do. And for some people, they can't get through that. For example, my friend hung himself. He had depression. If he'd just had more time or perspective or a window to think about what he was doing, maybe he would still be here and maybe he wouldn't have done that. Or maybe not. Maybe he still would have done that. But maybe it was an accident. And he didn't really mean to kill himself, but he accidentally succeeded. So there's all these kinds of variables. But I just want people to share their stories. And I know their stories are all going to be different than mine. I also hope that my depression doesn't come back and intensify and get worse in my life. And people don't just struggle with depression. They may well have some kind of Asperger's or autism or borderline personality disorder or any other range of things, which make dealing with the difficulties in their life so much harder and could make them potentially more likely to commit suicide. Not that I have any deep answers, just that I think it's something that people should talk about more. It's not something that I feel people talk about enough online, just sharing their experiences. So whoever you are listening to this video, I hope you're safe. I hope you have support and ways of getting through the things that you find tough. You're not the only person that has to deal with this kind of stuff, and that's actually a good thing because you're not a freak, you're not strange, you're not unusual. It's just human to have weaknesses or things that you can't get through or deal with. So just to round up this video, I was given a few resources by, of all people, an anti-feminist person who I've talked to a bit. His name is Brad the Impaler. I don't know why the hell he's called that. He provided me with some links of places that can help people who have depression. First, he gave me crisischat.org. So this is mainly in the United States, where there's a chat network who can provide online emotional support. If you click on the chat button here, I haven't tried it yet, click on the chat now and then you can talk to somebody. mentalhealthamerica.net, finding support groups. This just gives you some advice, and it has a big list of support groups here. Everything from Alcoholics Anonymous to Anxiety and Depression Association to Gamblers Anonymous, etc. crisistextline.org. This is cool. Counselors can actually text with you anything that's on your mind or anything you're having difficulty with. And the last one I found was unsuicide.wikispaces.com, which has lots of international services and groups. It's got Australia, Canada, UK, USA, a few other ones here, Netherlands, Ireland, etc. Chat rooms, texting, and emailing. And then a bunch of other stuff. And then some self-help resources. So for anyone who's struggling with things out there, I hope that provides some help. And yeah, thanks a lot. Enjoy your life. Bah! Welcome to the worst continuity break in any of my videos ever. I always try to record my videos in the same clothes on the same day, but I forgot to record something that I wanted to put in this video yesterday. So now I'm suddenly wearing a jacket with the thing because I had a job interview, and oh my god! So I just wanted to talk about what happened after I left Hokkaido, where I'd lived for 3 years, getting over culture shock, learning some Nihongo. I'm very chotto rusty on my Nihongo, so I shouldn't embarrass myself trying to speak any that makes sense. Muzukashi, but I could communicate. I moved to Saitama, just north of Tokyo, where I worked in private conversation classes. Now, I was paid significantly less than I was on the JET program, which was what I originally worked on in public schools in Nippon or Japan. Look at all this Japanese knowledge I have, sensei. Working in private conversation school was much harder. I was very isolated. My working hours were from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. It completely fucked up my sleeping schedule. I lived in a tiny box of an apartment. It was so small that I didn't even have anywhere to hang up my washing, so I would try to dry it in front of the air conditioner, and it would always make the clothes kind of smelly. So I'd go to work, I'd get put in this tiny little box of a room after usually drinking all night with like 6 Japanese kids who fucking irritating pain in the ass, going insane in this crazy heat every single day, just doing the same routine over and over again. It's quite hard to make friends with Japanese people sometimes, and I was completely isolated, and I think I was actually going insane. because I couldn't handle being alone that much all the time. In this box where I just felt completely trapped with no one to talk to, and then drink my way to about like 10 and then sleepwalk to work, where I'd spend all day in a non-air-conditioned tiny room getting yelled at by this horrible supervisor. And after about 9 months of that, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I was extremely unhappy. I couldn't deal with it, so I recorded a video of me talking about it. In fact, there's 2 videos. In one of the videos I break down and I cry and I'm a mess. And I'm not gonna put that one out there because I don't need that shit floating around the internet. But another one, I didn't cry. I just talked about how I was feeling in it. I felt very lethargic, and I feel like I kind of captured just my mood. So I'm just going to play some select parts of that. So this is me being depressed in Japan about 2 or 3 years ago. Enjoy. You know, you have a partner and you've got all the good things in life. That doesn't have any effect on the depression in your brain. Like, it just doesn't. If you maintain that for like a really long time, so it's just continuous, you won't think about your depression to the point that you will believe you're cured. But they will believe that they are living really good lives. And they, well, I guess they are living really good lives, aren't they? It's like, what does a really good life even mean? What does a really good life look like? I just know that when you take all those things away, that's when like depression decides to come back and hit you with full force. People often think about it as kind of just a mopiness or whatever. And it kind of is, in a sense. Like, you get very mopey and you mope around and people don't like the way you seem. They worry about you. Oh, he's worried about that person who has depression. Oh no. You know. I'm really worried about this person. And they'll be like, I'm really worried too. And then no one will do anything because people don't really do that very often. And if they do, like, okay, that person gets their life back on track. But what does that mean? Now I'm just rambling. God damn it. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything. See, now I'm getting all sarcastic and shit because I'm like, I couldn't achieve what I was trying to achieve. That means I have to be like, nya, nya, nya. Fucking brain. I fucking hate my brain, you know. I'm confused about why I'm doing all the things I'm doing, only to discover that I fucking die. I'm confused about it. I'm kind of like wondering, like, why is that happening? But I think people see it as weird, thinking about things like this. God. I can't describe how frustrating it is to want to talk about what you want to talk about and then finding you can't do it. It fucking sucks, man. It's bad. I just wish I wasn't me, and I think the main reason I wish I wasn't me is because I have these thoughts about death, and I think the best life lived is the one where you don't think about shit like this. I mean, my thoughts are always disconnected. It's like there's something in my brain that's just like, that thought's gone. I just feel like I can't handle it. Like, I feel like I can't deal with going to bed right now, but I have to. My bed's just right in there. I just feel too bad to go to bed. That's something I want to do. Fuck. Maybe like someone could watch this and be, I'm so worried about people watching it, obviously, and understand how I'm feeling, and that could have an impact on them. I don't know.